Hello, and welcome to the Our Forever Smiles, Cleft Mom Diaries, and Support podcast. I am your host, Laura Arroyo. Before we jump into this episode, I would like to invite you to join this community to hear conversations with other cleft moms and advocates that will help you feel supported along your journey. All I want you to do is click on the follow or subscribe button. We love your support, and it's incredible to see us all come together. So thank you so much. We have so much in store this year, so continue to follow and subscribe. As a note, we are not medical doctors, and we do not intend for you to use the information that we share here as medical advice. We are parents and advocates who love our children, and we are sharing our own personal experiences. I am really excited to speak with our next guest. I'm always on Instagram and Facebook, always just looking for people that are open to sharing their experience along the cleft journey. And I stumbled across Allisha's profile. And as a writer myself and a fellow, I guess, artsy-fartsy individual, I was thrilled to not only see the work that Allisha has done in media, but also for the cleft community. Allisha is a Canadian producer, writer, and actor with the unilateral cleft lip. Currently, she is working on a new comedy series called The H Word, which is dear to her and heavily based on her experience growing up with a cleft lip. She hopes the series will create awareness about the facial difference community and finally display accurate representation on screen. Welcome, Allisha.
Hello, thanks for having me.
I'm so glad to have you on today. So where are you from? Or where were I
So
said where you were from, right? Where were you born?
I was born in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, but I grew up all over Canada. I've moved quite a bit, but that's my hometown.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I know like very little about Canada. Do you know much
Mhm.
about the United States?
Girl, don't put me on the spot. Nope. I mean, I
No?
do,
Okay.
and I do, and I don't.
Yeah, no, the reason I asked is because I was going to ask if it was anything like here, like in terms of like culture or the way that people, I guess the way of being. I have a great understanding of what the medical system is like here and
Mhm.
navigating it. My daughter was born with a cleft palate, and so this is very recent. She's only 20 months and she's already had her surgery. And
Yeah.
while it was a stressful ride for us, to say the least, the reason why I created this podcast and this platform was to do the same thing, right? That you intend to do, is to build awareness and just to provide support for other people.
Mhm.
And so I guess, what was it like for you growing up in Canada and having to go through this journey?
Well, we're very lucky here in Canada with our healthcare system. And so we did have a lot of financial support in that regard. I don't know what my mother would have done otherwise because she was very young. She was only 17 when she had me. And of course, it was a shock when I was born. So I don't really know what we would have done without the great care that we get here. Yeah, I had no idea what it was like in the States until I went to CleftCon in New York last year. And they had a lot of people come in to talk about the healthcare system and how they can get assistance. And I just that can't imagine on top of all the stress that y'all have to deal with as parents, but then have to battle the financial part as well. Yeah, must be really hard.
Yeah, it is. It's incredibly difficult. And I always share with people, right? You get these like bills in the mail, thousands of dollars. And I am fortunate now that I'm in a position in my life where I'm able to afford a bill like that, right? But literally, had she been born 3 years earlier, this would have
Oh,
taken me out. This would have like really
yeah.
been awful. And I didn't mean to start there, right? To talk about the awful
That's okay. Look, we'll get that out of the way. I'll talk about that stuff first.
But it's an honest truth about our system here, and I'm actually really glad that you brought it up, or that we're talking about it, because of
Mhm.
the Elsa bill that is coming up in July. And so we will have another episode about advocating for insurance companies to cover all medical expenses that come from having a cleft lip or a cleft palate. And so you mentioned your mom being like super young. Like, just having a baby at that age is like really tough. Were your grandparents supportive in this process at all, or what was your family's involvement in your life and in your care?
My mom was lucky. My grandparents did help a little bit. My mother has always been incredibly independent. And I was a difficult baby. I cried a lot. And so I think when I was around 2 or 3, we moved away from my grandparents, and my mother tried to do it on her own without my father as well. I talk about my mom quite a bit in these interviews and online because she is such a superhero. But she handled all of my care pretty much alone on her own. And it was before a time where we had wonderful people like you with podcasts, and, Facebook groups and the internet. Yeah, I don't know how she did it.
Yeah. And I'm 34, so I feel like, oh my goodness, I'm like drowning and I can't imagine. I'm like, I'm
I'm
nearly
also
40.
34 and feel like I'm drowning, and I don't even have kids. I don't. Oh,
Yeah, I just remember when she was born, and of course my experience to my intro to motherhood is a little different, right? I had a few more appointments than others,
yeah.
but it like, oh my goodness, motherhood, there's just nothing that can prepare you for it. And so yeah, I can imagine like how challenging that is. And I also think too, like it just made me have this thought about like my mom. By my age, she had three. And I literally, when I was navigating this whole thing with my daughter, I was like, I can't believe people do this more than once. Like, I
Yeah.
I can't believe people have more children. So, like, just growing up, do you have siblings?
I do. I have a younger sister and a half brother, but they're much younger. They're 6 years younger than me. My younger sister doesn't really remember a lot of my cleft care.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Did
She
your mom?
remembers my last surgery when I was like, I think I was 16 or 17. Had my last reconstructive surgery, and she remembered that because I had to wear, I call them nose plugs. It's not the right term, but my family and I, we just tried to make it more of a humorous thing, and we called it nose plugs. But she remembers that because I complained about it a lot. I had to wear it in the school play, my photos. It was just, yeah. But
Yeah,
uh,
that's
everything before that, she doesn't really remember.
yeah, that's so funny. It's fascinating how much things have changed, right? Because you're 34, I'm 34, and I feel okay. So my mom told me, she said that she didn't know what she was having. I have two older brothers, and so she thought I was just going to be another boy. So she was surprised, and I was like, "You guys didn't have ultrasounds?" Like I'm like, I
Well,
feel
we've come
like
a long way.
I feel like I'm not that old. So,
Yeah.
but maybe I am. I don't know. But yeah, so it is interesting. So of course, your mother didn't know until you're born.
Correct. But she was warned because my mother was on a prescription drug. So that is the cause of my cleft lip. I think she was on it during the first trimester. And so when they realized that she was pregnant, they did let her know that I could be born with something, and but she wasn't too concerned. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And was it seizure medication? I know that's like a big one that they talk about a lot now.
I believe it was a steroid. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what kind.
Yeah, it's so there's a lot of cleft moms that they intended cleft moms that really try to crack the case and they want to
Yeah.
know. Yeah, they want to know. So you might get that question from people like, can you find out the name of the steroid that your
Yeah,
mom took?
I should. I definitely should. I'll get that information.
Only if you want to, because
Oh, no, I'm happy to share. I probably should know that. Yeah, I think it's an
yeah.
important piece of information. I just know that it's a steroid.
It's funny. The conversation that I was having yesterday that I mentioned to you that totally got erased. We were also sharing his experience in having a cleft. His family also was very lighthearted about it and really wanted to find like the humor in it. And I'm quote unquote modern cleft mom and I know all the terms and all this stuff. And he was like straight up, I'm sorry, I don't know what that is. I asked him if he had a bone graft, and he said, I don't know. I don't know what that is.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
at least know that, thankfully, because I feel very uneducated, even in my own cleft journey. There's a lot I don't remember, a lot I don't remember. And I didn't have a cleft care team because we moved around a lot. So I'm one of those few people that I don't know the proper terms. I have a hard time remembering exactly what the surgeries are and what they're called. Um, but yeah, bone grafting I'll never forget because that's excruciating. But I just started to join Facebook groups and things like that last year when I wanted to think about writing a show because I was like, I can't just speak for my journey. I have to speak for other people's journeys. And I learned so much. There was so much I didn't know. I was using all the wrong terms. I'm like, I'm a bad cleft palate person. Like my own community would hate me if they knew how ignorant I was. But I mean, each journey is different. And I didn't grow up with support groups. And as an adult, I didn't even think about it. Didn't even think about it until now. So now I'm more educated.
Yeah. Don't feel that way. I feel like when I first started this podcast, because it is my experience, but it's really my daughter's experience. And so I started to feel like, and I've mentioned this in several episodes, do I have the right to speak on behalf of a community, like on to have this platform? And I went back and forth before deciding to do this whole thing, but I have the love and support that I've received from this community and the amount of all the stuff that I've learned has been really incredible. And I've only been able to like support people and to inform others and to just provide a like space for people that want to share their stories, but also people that don't and they just would like to hear, because nobody knows if you've listened to a podcast episode, right? But if you've just like to listen to someone else's story to feel a little less alone, I think that I've done my job there. I feel a justification in that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Someone has to. People have to, right? And it's not that yeah, without people who talk about it, and there is no sense of community, there is no awareness, there is no learning. So,
So, what made you? I know we have the series, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But what made you start
mhm.
wanting to talk about your experience? Because sometimes it can be a little traumatic to retell these stories or trigger up feelings that you didn't even realize that you had. So, what made you want to?
uh, I don't know. I feel like I took a full 180 in the last couple of years because I was in this place where I was starting to get more invested in my acting career and I was frustrated. I wasn't booking the roles that I wanted. And on camera, depending on angles, you can see it more. And I was frustrated. I thought, maybe I'll just go get some lip filler. Maybe I'll just get this filled in. It was so sickening because I was like, I don't want to, even though I was really insecure about it, I didn't want to erase this part of me because it's been with me my whole life. Like I'm kind of protective about it. And then I don't know what flipped, but I was like, I can't hide this thing, nor do I want to. So I better just lean into it. Better start embracing this part of me. And I've talked about this before about like stepping into your power. And my mother has been saying that to me for years, Allisha, you just got to step into your power. And I was like, I am in my power. Look at me. I'm out here. But I didn't fully comprehend what she meant. And it was just like fully embracing who I am and all the parts, even the parts that I don't love necessarily all the time. And things changed. And I wasn't even sure that I was ready. I
Mm.
just took a step forward and then things started snowballing. And now I'm here and I'm still talking about it. And it's been the most incredible journey because I've healed parts of me that I didn't even know needed healing. And
Mm-hmm.
writing a show about it brings up a lot of things as well. And I'm growing now. I feel like I'm in the place that I can go back to those places and give that little girl some healing. Whereas 5, 10 years ago, I would not have been able to do that.
Yeah. I know you mentioned this, so you don't remember some of your surgeries, but you remember some. How many surgeries have you gone through?
4.
Too
I
many?
remember, yeah, they're all too many. I remember the last 2. I remember the bone grafting, and then I remember reconstructive surgery because I was a teenager. Yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned about the bone graft being excruciating. How old were you when you had that done?
I was, nope, 14,
Oh,
13,
wow.
14. Yeah, I was a bit older. I know some cleft patients, they have it very young, but I think we were trying to avoid it at all costs. And then when I was doing a lot of the dental, I had been wearing a retainer for a while. We pulled all the extra teeth. We were trying to make things work. And I went in to get my braces, and they were like, we're not going to be able to give you braces. You have to do the bone grafting. And so we did. And it made all the difference. But
Yeah.
it was awful. I empathize with those who had to do it multiple times. I don't know that I could be dragged into an operating room to have that again. Ugh, but you do what you have to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Do you have any like hesitance going to the dentist or anything like in your mouth? I don't know if that's considered trauma or what, but do,
It's trauma.
I don't want to make everything trauma because trauma is traumatic. If it's just a little fear of the
Yeah.
dentist, it's a little different. But yeah, I can imagine going through 4 surgeries is really challenging. I'm pretty sure it was really challenging for your mother, but what a powerful thing for her to share with you. You've got to step into your power because I think that just helping you understand who you are and what you can accomplish is so valuable. And I won't speak for
Mhm.
you, but I guess what has that motivation done for your confidence? For how has it helped you like step into what you're doing now and just getting that confidence while not necessarily feeling it right growing up?
It's made all the difference. Having a parent that expresses love unconditionally and support. And I have to say, my mother genuinely loves my class lift. Like what she talks about when I was a baby. She's, oh my gosh, you were the most precious. I just loved your little smile. Like she loves it. And then for so long, I'd look at baby pictures of me and I was like, like, how could you? And so as an adult and raising me, she's always had that perspective and love. And that has made all the difference for me. It's made me a more confident person. It's allowed me to, you know, just step out of fear and pursue my dreams. I would never would have pursued acting, a career that is judges you based on how you look. Your face is on camera. But my mom was the one who was like, you know what you're meant to do. You know what you love to do. Just go out and do it. Like
Oh, wow.
every step of the way. And so when you have a parent like that, and I'm sure she was scared at times, but I don't really recall her complaining or expressing that she was scared. Like she just handled everything with such grace and was just like, I got this. We got this. We're good. It's wild. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's okay for parents who do express. I probably thinking about it now as an adult because my mom's learning more about me now as an adult too because I'm talking about it more. But her and I didn't talk about it a lot when I was growing up.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and so I think maybe if she had expressed more, maybe I would have too. So I guess there's pros and cons to both being a different type of expressive parent. But yeah, we didn't really talk about it a whole lot when I was younger.
Yeah, I think my approach to it was Yeah, you have to. I feel like I have to be strong for her, that type of thing. And she's a
Mhm.
baby, so it's sometimes you feel like, oh, what does she know? But she does, right? Like she does, and I have to. I immediately, even being a first-time mom, I'd never been a mom before, and I went into this different mode. It was like, so she surprised me as well because she's palate affected only. So I learned at birth, and I went right into
Mm,
action. And so it was like I we would go to these appointments and they ask questions and I'd ask questions back, and it was just one of those things that just I became a different person. She's certainly made me stronger, and I have heard
yeah.
of mothers that have said I have this experience with mothers that have grieved their baby's pre-op smile. It's like a real thing. Like after surgery,
Yeah.
they don't recognize their baby, and I'm like, it's so heartbreaking. It's such a
I just got a message from someone, a follower her and I have talked, and she got a tattoo of her baby's smile pre-op. And I was like, my mom would do something that wild as well. But I just love that. And it makes sense. You get used to it. It's, yeah, yeah.
yeah. I feel like I've been jumping all over the place. I feel like we start talking about something and then I remember something else. So just forgive me. But so you wrote in your pre interview something that I thought was totally profound. You said that no matter how many surgeries one has, the scar will always be there, literally or figuratively. Can you expound on that a little bit?
Yeah. I think most of us, we have the surgeries in hopes that it's less noticeable. And I've had many people when I say, oh, yeah, I was born with a cleft lip, and they'll say, oh, I didn't even notice. And it bothers me sometimes. And I'm like, okay, first of all, how do you not notice? But if you actually didn't notice, then it's, oh, so am I passing? Am I passing as someone who doesn't have a
Mm.
cleft lip? But then it devalues this huge part of me in my journey. And so even if I was to get my lips done perfectly and fill this in and make my nostrils even, it's still there. It's still there, whether people say they notice it or not. It is my journey. And yeah, I think it's important to learn to embrace that part. But I know that's hard and it's not easy for everyone to do. Everyone's on their own.
Yeah. I guess you as an adult now, what is the best approach for what should someone say? Or should they not say anything? Or
Like when you say, "Oh,
yeah, okay.
I was born with a cleft lip,"
So two ways.
like
So
that.
if you mention it, which what is an appropriate response?
That is a great question because what might be an appropriate response for me might not be an appropriate response for someone else. I think of saying, "Oh, I didn't notice," you could say, "Oh, I didn't know that about you."
Oh, okay. I like
Oh,
that.
oh,
Yeah.
thanks for sharing that. Yeah.
I don't know. That
Some
one
people
is
ask
like
questions. Thanks for sharing. I don't know. See, I don't know. We started telling people in the last few years, like, people don't ask. I would never want to draw attention to it because so many people are like, oh, I don't notice. So I was like, if I don't mention it, no one will really look. And so I tried everything in my power to not draw attention. So I haven't had a lot of those hard conversations. Um,
yeah. I
only
mean, but
lately.
no one has said like, did you have a cleft lip?
No, but I've had people ask, "Oh, like what's wrong with your lip or were you born with?" Yeah. No one, because it's weird. 1 in 700 for a lot of people, but it's
Yeah.
amazing how many people don't know what a cleft lip is.
Yeah.
Blows my mind. And so people don't know what to ask. And so I don't know that I've ever had anyone outright ask if I have a cleft lip. They've asked vaguely, "What is it?" Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just
Mhm.
this is the first time I've asked this question because I'm just thinking like, how does someone ask if they are genuinely curious and want to know without coming off as like completely and sensitive. So
That's
it's
tough because
certainly,
some people don't want you to draw attention to it at all. My
yeah.
mother made that mistake last year. She met an older woman and
Mhm.
a cleft lip, and this woman looked so upset. She did not like that my mother asked at all, even though she was kind and genuine about it, and she just wanted to relate. Sometimes it's just better to not. I'm always on the side of caution. Even myself, as someone with a cleft lip, I was in Tim Hortons the other day. I want to cast as many Canadian cleft affected individuals in my show. And I saw this young girl. She was so pretty and she was walking past and I was like, oh, like so excited. And I was ready to stop her. And she was with her friends to be like, I noticed you have a cleft lip. I stopped myself because I was like, can you, like a teenage girl, probably still in that stage of potentially being insecure. And I just draw attention to it in the middle of a Tim Hortons. Even though I have it, it could still be offensive. And so I want to bring it up every time. I want to have a secret handshake when
Yeah.
we see each other, but not everyone is there. So sometimes it's better to just, well, unless
Yeah.
you're
That's,
close. If you're close, then it's different.
yeah. No, it's, I think about that too because I'm like, I want to hear more stories, and I have reached out to people, have been kind. I'm not ready, and also people just don't respond at all. It rarely happens, but yeah, it's like you reach out to people in this way because you want to connect with them. I want to share my daughter's
Yeah.
story. I want to validate. I want to talk about it. I do. It's this weird thing. I want to talk about it. I want to talk about it all the time. Actually, that's why I started this podcast. And it's when someone doesn't want to talk, it's they don't want you invited to the party or something like. But I can imagine that feeling that you had.
Okay.
Yeah, that washed over you almost, right? Like in that moment, that's I shouldn't do that. Yeah.
I shouldn't do that. Shouldn't do it. I shouldn't be like, hey, I'm writing a show. Like, I'm excited. You should be excited. You should come on the show. Yeah. We just want to share it with everyone. But
Yeah. It's a show highlighting something that you really dislike about yourself.
yeah, yeah, we should put it right on camera for the world to see.
So speaking of
For
that
some people, that's
show,
enough.
no, I like now that we're talking about it, like, having this dialogue about it, it is the first time that I had ever asked someone like, what is the best way to approach. And now I'm thinking like just let them approach you, but then maybe they feel like
Yeah.
okay, that we've gone through that whole exercise. Speaking of the show, the let's talk about the H words. I obviously know what the H word is, but can you share with the audience what is the H word?
I'll say it and you can beep it out. So the H stands for a very offensive slang term, hair lip. And the facial difference cleft community find it repulsing. I've met some people where they're fine with it and some that it is the worst thing that you could say. So I myself, growing up, I knew it wasn't a great term. I never found it offensive. And when I decided to create a show focused on growing up with a cleft lip, I wanted to address the word. And I was silly. I was ignorant, like I was saying before. And I actually just used the title, like the full word. And because I wanted to deal with it head on. I wanted to deal with it head on. And this is like a love letter to the cleft community, but we also have to remember that I am writing this for the general population. It's meant to educate. And so
Yeah.
I was like, people aren't going to know what the H word is. People are going to know if I use the full word. And people were angry, rightfully so. And people reached out to me. And funny enough, I did reach out to some people prior to promoting to see how other people felt about it. And again, some people are like totally fine. Oh my gosh, good for you. And then once I started advertising, people in the cleft community started talking. And
Oh yeah.
thankfully, a couple people reached out to me and they were like, hey, you might want to rethink this. And I had already been feeling very unsettled. I don't like confrontation. I didn't want to ruffle any feathers. And as soon as that happened, I was like, yes, it's changed. Oh my gosh, we're going to call it the H word. And if anyone asks, I'll tell them. But then I also thought, too, from a marketing standpoint, it's great because it strikes curiosity. What is the H word?
Yeah.
And so yeah, but I really wanted to tackle that because it's just a representation of the lack of knowledge and awareness about the craft community.
Yeah. I think it's also from generation to generation, right? I think like a lot of new moms have started to use the term clefty. I don't know if you've seen that a lot.
And some people, I hate that term.
It's cringy though. It is. Like before before I even knew that it was like cuz people use it. So before I
Yeah.
even knew that it was a little bit like derogatory or in poor taste, I had always thought it was like cheesy or like
Mm,
corny. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
So I was actually
Oh,
glad. I'm like, yeah, tell them don't use that anymore.
don't use it. I know. I'm always on the Facebook groups. I'm like, what are we using now, guys? What's the latest? Okay. We're not using that. It's out. All right. Cool, cool, cool. Because I'm not easily offended. I brought on a co-writer for a reason because I was just like, can we tackle this topic? Is it too soon? Should we not even touch it? Yeah. So,
Yeah.
ugh. So
I have
Swifty is
that
out. We don't use that.
I have that issue too. I'm like, no, I'm very not easily offended at all. And I also just I like to hear perspective. Like some people may I'm like okay, change my mind type of person. I want to
Yes,
hear
me too.
different things. But yeah, so I would love to hear more about the
Hmm.
series. You're in it, right? Like you're a character in the show?
Yeah, I am. Based on my life and my experience as an adult and growing up. And so no one else could play the lead role. I also didn't really know anyone with a cleft lip prior to this. Now I have many cleft friends. It's great. But yeah, I didn't. So I was like, oh, I'll play the lead role as Stevie. And it's just about a woman in her 30s who decides to go to therapy because her life is in shambles. She's not handling things very well. And yeah, she reluctantly goes to therapy only to find out that a lot of her issues stem from her insecurities around her cleft lip scar. Every episode, we sit in a therapy session, we tackle some issues, but also follows her life at that time and just how ridiculously awful it is. Which she causes herself. She is definitely a flawed character.
So is this you through and through or do you add some
It's, I add a little flair. People are going to ask a lot of questions. I am writing for TV. And so there's definitely some things. I feel like it's the version of me if I hadn't done any of the work. Because I'm definitely not that person in the show. But if I hadn't done the work over the last, I'd say, 10 years, yeah, I probably would be a hot mess like Stevie and desperately needing therapy and intervention. So,
So in what ways has therapy helped you? And would you recommend what would you recommend for an adult that like struggling with their cleft lip?
yeah, I think anyone and everyone should go to therapy, to be completely honest. It's beneficial. I know it's tough for some people to find a therapist or a social worker who can relate to the topic. And a therapist is great regardless. But yeah, if you can find someone who can speak to the difficulties of growing up different, then that's great. But I had that experience. So yeah, it's beneficial.
Yeah. So you weren't you weren't in therapy? You've never been to therapy?
I am now.
Oh.
But no, a lot of, you know what? The last 10 years, the work I've done is just mindfulness, journaling, just tackling my insecurities head on. Again, being on camera, being in the industry that I'm in, always forces me to deal with the mental aspect of my insecurities. So, giving myself a lot of love with the years, but now I'm in therapy. But yeah, I think I'd probably make more progress had I done therapy in my 20s. But, yeah. But
Yeah.
then I wouldn't have a good story to tell because there's a lot of things in this show that are a little unsettling. But again, it's a comedy that are real, genuine experiences in my 20s that could have been avoided if I had just given myself a little love.
I can't wait to check out the whole series so that I can now I have the real person, right? So I can try to dissect
Yeah,
what's real and what's not.
even my partner. So we've only shot the pilot and we're ramping up to start pitching right now. So we still need a network. We still need to get the funding. It's a long process. My goodness, getting a show made is hard work. And so I sat down with my partner the other day and we watched the pilot on TV. And he looked at me and said, "What is that from your life or is that just written?" And I was like, "Oh, that's from my life." And then another scene happened. He's like, "Does that mean that's from your life?" And I'm like, "That is definitely not from my life. Are you kidding me?" Okay, checking.
That's
So
what that's fun to do. Yeah, now that I know you.
yeah, like no.
Yeah. So what
It's for
got you
me to
into
know and the
acting?
audience to find out.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no. So what got you into acting and into writing your own shows? And what do you I like to ask a bunch of questions at once. I'll save that one.
I started acting in high school in the theater program, and I had never really found anything that I was good at until I joined theater, and I loved being on stage. I loved the hours rehearsing, going over scripts, building a character, and I found my people. But I didn't think I could have a career in acting. So I did so many other things before committing to this. And 10 years ago, I moved to Toronto to learn more about film, television. I finally was ready to pursue it, thanks to my mother. And after 7 years of that, but still not feeling like I was getting anywhere, the roles I was playing were just, they weren't juicy. They weren't me. It was, yeah, I don't want to get into the roles I was playing, but they weren't ideal. And I had always had the intention of writing, producing, and directing my own work. I initially wanted to do film because I thought I can make a difference in film. You have a larger audience base. I can tackle some serious topics. So I did a lot of mental health related projects when I first started. 3 years ago, I was given an opportunity to come on board a project to write and produce. And I was like, I've never written a show, right? And they were like, we trust you. And I was like, okay. I got thrown in and we had to write a comedy show real quick and shoot it. And I was like, this is it. I am in my element. And yeah, it gave me the strength to really big, important topic of
Yeah.
mine. So here I am.
Yeah. What do you like more, the writing now or the acting?
Still the acting. Still the act. Writing is fun, but I'm a perfectionist and I get in my head a lot. And because I consider myself a new writer, like I've been writing forever, but writing for TV, it's stressful. It scares me. I will rewrite a scene 10 times. Like the co-writer I brought on who is also has a cleft lip. It's so great because then we can bounce ideas off together. I love that style of writing, which is why I like writing sketch because you have people in a room and you build, scenes together. I love that. When I have to sit at my desk and write, the pressure is on. This has to be perfect the first time around. I need to get out of my way. I'm still learning. Whereas acting, I feel comfortable. I feel confident. I love taking a character off of page and bringing it to life. I think that'll always be my favorite. But producing and writing together, the thing that brings me the most joy is having a sense of control, being able to say, hey, we made this. We did it. That's rewarding.
I'm also a writer. I don't write TV. There's different types of writing. I'm a and I will tell you there's no such thing as writing once and just
I
being done
know.
in any form of writing. Just
Yeah,
doesn't happen. And so you
wish.
can yeah, writing is a lot of work and I think that people don't necessarily realize that like how stressful writing is. So I'm a technical writer. I have this podcast for fun, but my day job, I'm a technical writer. And so it's stressful. But
That sounds stressful. Just the word technical in front of it is techno what?
no, it's just a fancy way of saying that writing instructions.
Sounds stressful.
But yeah, so there's no, so I feel you on that, that it is, that part of it is probably like the stressful part of it. But when it's done, you feel like almost like you contributed more, right? Like you did this big thing for everyone, right? Because everyone is speaking what you wrote, or like they're doing what you
Yeah.
said. And so that feeling is really like rewarding versus just playing one character, right? Like you have control over of the characters for the most part. And yeah, I can see how
It's a
that's
big, it's a big job.
yes. So I know that you work on more shows than the H Word. What are some other places that we can find your work?
There- See, we're in Canada, so I have a sketch comedy show that I co-wrote, co-produced, and star in. I play a lot of different characters. 2 seasons and a Christmas special on Bell 5 TV, the Canadian network.
Yeah, we have
So
Canadian listeners.
yeah, okay, good. So you can watch that there. And then I have another show on Out TV. It's called Two Brothers. We have season 2 coming out this summer, actually. And yeah, we're really excited about that. So that show I just produce and star in. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So everyone will go, our Canadian audience, we will go and check those out. What's the biggest lesson that you've learned along your cleft journey?
I think the biggest lesson is just fully embracing who you are, embracing your difference. I really believe that it's a superpower. Being different is it's actually a gift in a world where everyone is trying so hard to be the same. We're forced to be different and stand out. And there's so much we can do with that. Um, so yeah, I think if you fully embrace it, it really does become your power.
I have heard that countless times from people from this community, and it is
Because it's true. It's so true. Ah,
just hearing you say that. Like this is literally probably the third time that I've heard that, and I think that that is really powerful messaging. And it, yes, it is true. It is true, and I just
mhm.
appreciate you sharing that, and also just sharing your journey here with us today. Thank you, Allisha.
Thank you for the opportunity. So nice to connect with you. This is fun.
Thank you all for listening to the Our Forever Smiles Cleft Mom Diaries and Support podcast. Be sure to subscribe and submit a review of the podcast wherever you listen. I hope that you've enjoyed this audio experience. Maybe you laughed a little, cried a little, but more importantly, I hope that you feel a little piece of reassurance and even joy in your journey. Talk to you next week.